Cheers! It's my favorite time of the week. It is Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific, and it's time for another Hackster Café, where we talk to people who are doing really cool stuff with hardware. And okay, so this week we're not just talking about someone doing cool stuff with hardware, although I'm sure you do. We're also talking about enablers. So Sid Drmay is here to talk to us from OSHWA, the Open Source Hardware Association, going into October, which is Open Hardware Month, and we're going to have some exciting announcements about kinds of things that you're going to be doing for this month. Hello, Sid. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning. How are you?
Awesome. And I should mention that later on, Ayesha Iftiqhar-Wilson, who came on the channel a couple of weeks ago, is going to be rejoining us to talk a bit more. So that'll be about at the half hour. But yeah.
Yeah.
So how's it going? Would you like to tell us about what OSHWA is and what you do there?
Yeah. So OSHWA is, as you said, the Open Source Hardware Association. And generally, a lot of our work is centered around trying to foster knowledge and accessibility and collaborative work and getting people to open up their projects. A lot of this is done through just our engagement with folks, but our main things are our summit, the Open Hardware Summit, which happens every year, which we do actually know that the next one will be taking place in Montreal in
Oh yeah.
2024. So we're pretty excited about that. We've got some really cool things coming together with that. And then our other big kind of initiative that we try and focus on is October, which is Open Hardware Month. So Open Hardware Month is generally just a way that we try and engage the community with finding new ways to open up their hardware or creations. It doesn't necessarily have to be hardware. Actually, we've been seeing some really cool things coming out with people making open perfumes and open
Ooh.
um, uh, things that have traditionally been considered like craft work. So a lot of like textile work and everything. And then, yeah, we just try and find ways to help folks engage with openness and find ways that their project can be open if they haven't done it yet, or if they are looking in ways that they can find openness within their work. We try and figure out ways to do that with folks. And I guess one of our main big ways of doing that is our certification. So our certification, this was kind of like a way that we had folks in the community that were kind of struggling with seeing where open source things were. A lot of times we can see people claiming to be open source, but not actually being open. And by that, we use the community definition of it, and that through that, we kind of came up with this certification process where people can self-certify, and then we have folks who look through the documentation and confirm that everything's there for it to be considered an open source project. And then we approve it, and folks can put their UID with their project, and then it also gets listed in our directory. So you can always look through the different projects and yeah, just see all kinds of really cool things that folks are making that are open. And you see these the number code here in the middle, that you see coming up. This is how you see the different areas that it's been made in. So the certification mark is how you can add that to your different projects so folks can see it right off the bat. And it's just a really great way to just keep track of what you've made and what community members have made and how it's open and how they can like engage with it and learn from it and grow with it. And it's been a really successful venture. We're close to 2,600 certifications, but
Ooh.
2,528 right now, which is really exciting. And we've got certifications across almost every continent. So it's been a really exciting time. Like we're really enthused to see how folks have been really working with the certification and finding ways to integrate that into their projects. Yeah.
I'm amazed that you said that there's perfume. Where would I find that on here? I found a space
Oh,
tag.
I
Other maybe?
believe
It
that
sounds so cool.
the
I can probably search
perfume.
it, huh?
Yes, I think if you search for scent, maybe I can double check who the maker is. Yes, there you go. The wearables. So Buddyless, search engine,
Of course, it's
touch graph.
wearable. Oh my
These
gosh.
are all perfumes that have been
What?
certified as open source. Aren't they just? It's so cool the way that they have approached it and the way that they're making these open source perfumes. Um, they specifically make sure to use concepts that are familiar to folks who are makers too. Like there's when you look through the kind of scent notes of these different scents, there's some really cool stuff like making it smell like, I think for Buddy List, they specifically say like waiting in the like computer room for your crush to come online, which is such a fun, yeah, there you go. For your crush to
So
log on to
cool.
Instant Messenger, which is such a fun like area to think about when we're thinking about scents and open source. And like these are kind of those sensations that a lot of us are used to having, and like a lot of us who are in the maker community really grew up with this kind of idea of like waiting on instant messenger and everything. So they've really found some really cool ways to integrate that kind of shared experience into something like a scent that you can make yourself and alter how you see fit. If you don't like a specific scent note, it's easy to take it out, and it's all just like really accessible in that way. And that's one of the ways that we've been really kind of thinking like, although we are the Open Source Hardware Association, we don't necessarily just focus on hardware. We also want to really focus on all kinds of ways that things can be open, and that, you know, if it has atoms, it can be on our directory, like it can be certified. And that's a really fun thing that we've been seeing a lot happening with people just finding new ways to certify projects.
I
And
love
then we
it.
do, of course, have a lot of hardware and software.
Yeah, so I remember the first time that I saw an OSHWA certified product that wasn't electronics was this shovel that was given out at Open Hardware Summit a few years ago. I can't remember exactly which year, but it was so cool. I'd actually use this thing camping all the time. I have the one without paracord, but like it's a what does it stand for? Semi-horned oblong versatile eating ladle. And yeah, SparkFun created this as just like, was this do you happen to know, was this the first like non-electronics centered open hardware
Great.
certified
I'm
object?
actually not certain if it was the first, but it was definitely up there. We've we've got a lot of certifications from SparkFun. They're one of our biggest certifiers. They make sure um, that their works are certified, and they keep up to date on their certification. So they're pretty frequent certifiers. Um, I can't speak exactly to the first non-hardware or software certification. It's just been running for so long at this point that it's hard to remember, but it's definitely up there. It would be one of the first, if not the first, just based on how SparkFun has been a huge proponent for certification. I I think I would expect that to be one of our earlier ones.
Legit. I straight up have made a compilation of like different camping trips where I was using this to like open a coconut and like open a bear box. It was really useful here for getting these screw tops off where like
Yeah.
otherwise you got to use like your dig your thumb under there. It's horrible. But is there a way to like look for by company, by hardware license, by
Yeah,
software
yeah, you
license?
can
Cool.
yeah, if you just look by company, usually if you put in like if you're looking for SparkFun specific things, they'll kind of show up just by searching SparkFun.
Neat.
Um, and they've got a lot of projects on here.
Oh, nice.
Um, and then yeah, a lot of our other community partners have a fair amount of certifications. Adafruit, I believe, is our
Oh, I would believe
top
that.
certifier. They have quite a few at this point. I think they recently celebrated a milestone with their certifications. They
Yeah, I remember seeing them share about that. It might have been when they hit 600, but now they're almost at 700. Wow.
Yeah, they recently shared that they hit 600, so they're the first organization to hit 600 certified designs. So they actually have this really fun little statistic. Well, they're at 24.9% of all certified open source hardware. So they've been doing a lot of work.
Wow.
They're really staying on top of certification, which you know, the benefit of certification is it is all self-done. So you kind of fill out when you feel like your project's ready, you can fill out the form and submit, and then we have some folks that take a look at it on our end and then send it back to you with the approval or needed adjustments so that you can move forward with your project.
I have to know if there's a. I'm just trying to pull up US 001. Oh, of course, it's the Spark Fun main
Yes.
title. Spark Fun.
Yep, SparkFun is the first certified project. So that was, yeah, in 2016. So I guess, oh God,
And
it
it's
is.
still out there. They're still producing it. There you go, y'all.
Yeah.
First ever open hardware certified object on OSHWA. This is so cool. And then you've got
Yeah, it's
all these 8
been
different
7
ones.
years now since we've been running this program, and it was really, yeah, it was a call from the community just to be able to know for sure that something is open when they say it's open, just because, you know, we started seeing a lot of kind of folks who wanted to claim to be open without having done the work or making sure that folks have access to the files they need to be able to iterate on their product. And this is just a surefire way to make sure that, like, yep, that thing is open. We've had folks look over it and confirm it, and we know for sure it is an open source certified project. And it's been
Yeah.
really, really, really useful and really effective. And it's also just a great, like, it's really fun just scrolling through our listings and just seeing what is out there and what people have been making. And we encourage folks when they're first starting to think about certification, or even if they're thinking about specific projects that they are just kind of wondering who else has made something or what else is out there that's similar to something they're looking at. This is a great
Mm.
way to just kind of scroll through and see what's out there and see how other folks have approached a problem and found a solution. And if they have things in their solution that make sense for your solution as well, you know?
Yeah. So we had a question from Tori asking where the forum link is, and I've just put that up on the screen here. Unfortunately, we can't post comments to LinkedIn, but we can put it up here. And here is the page. Is it gorgeous? Okay, I have to make a quick digression here and say that
Yeah.
y'all's design is just so good all the time. Like this year's Open Hardware Summit stickers, I've held on to those for a long time because oh, that's not the right thing. Because they're just so cute, and every year you come up with these amazing designs, and I love them. And I've got, I don't know, just whoever is doing your design is knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, we feel really, really lucky. We've worked with some really good designers in the last couple of years. Last year was Ananda Gabo, who she's an incredible artist who also does all kinds of work.
Look at this.
Design is honestly just a part of what she does. She's also an incredible jade worker, artist, does all kinds of cool things. And yeah, she did some great designs for us last year. The year before that, we had Dushan Malik, and he also did some really cool stuff. And then this year we have Anna Kim, who has really knocked it out of the park. We were really excited working with them. We really wanted some really playful stuff going into this year. We've really noticed that the way we like to approach the summit is that we like to have a main color that we've been utilizing that in the last couple of years of having kind of like a main color. So this year we're kind of going for this fun highlightery teal blue situation. And then basically we said, design 2 to 3 little guys. And that's one of our little guys for this year. And they're just wonderful. We just love them so much, and we're really excited to find ways to incorporate them into the branding of this year. And we've already come up with some really fun ideas on how we're going to utilize them. So keep an eye out for some fun, cool stuff coming down the line with that. We're feeling really excited for 2024. I think we're gonna. I mean, we keep having really incredible summits. We had a great time this year's, and we just think it's just getting better and better every year. I don't think we're going to be slowing down anytime soon when it comes to the
Yeah.
summit.
I have a couple questions around this. Okay, so A, do you name your little guys?
Sometimes we do. It kind of goes back and forth. With this guy, actually, uh, he's kind of specifically seen as like a loom bot was the kind of base concept around him. That he
Oh.
initially, some initial designs, he was like spitting out yarn and stuff. So we played with a couple different options, and So he is technically a Loom bot, and then we have some other fun little guy. Like, I really love this guy with the little glasses and the yeah, just finding fun ways to incorporate, silhouettes and ideas that we're familiar with, and then making them fun and playful is something we've really been enjoying doing with the summit in the last couple of years, and just like finding ways to make it more exciting. And I don't know, I just feel like people really love a little guy.
I think that's absolutely true. I love a little guy. So could you tell us a bit about what happens at Open Hardware Summit?
Yeah, so the summit is generally we have a lot of talks about 20-minute long talks where folks talk about just about anything. We've got last year we were really fancy. We had 2 days and it was a little bit overwhelming trying to make it all work, but we managed to do it. And we have folks talking about stuff like designing your own personal computers. We had folks talking about
Mhm.
um, different ways to certify textile projects. Yeah, isn't that one really fun? I
It's
love that one. He's
amazing.
so cool. We had folks talking about open source in academia was really huge this year because of our Trailblazer Fellowship, which we were able to have a bunch of different academics find ways to incorporate open
Mm.
source into their work. And so that was like a big theme in this year's. But we also had a lot of really different talks that weren't based in academia, but still had like connections. Like one of the really fun ones was Laurel Cummings' Your Technological Go Bag and You. So
Ooh.
she did a really fun thing where she had the different objects that you might have in your lab and then had them kind of like in Tinder profiles, and you would talk about what made sense to actually have with you if you were
Ah!
on the go. Um, yeah, so and then on top of the talks, we also have the kind of I kind of refer to it as like a science fair setup where we have a bunch of demo tables where folks come in and just show off different products they're working on. We've got different community partners like businesses that develop all kinds of different products. And then we also have folks that are just really focused on one specific design they're working on. We had all kinds of really neat things. Like we had folks, Andy Quitmeyer was there showing off his bubble punk stuff. He also did that as a
Mm.
workshop. And then we had a lot of our sponsors were also had tables where they were able to show off just some of their different products and different things they were working on. We even, I think, kind of a little risque, but a little bit more of an interesting one. We even had an open source sex machine on display this year,
Right.
which was kind of a new direction. And it was really exciting just to see folks interact with all these different ideas of like open source can be so many things, and being able to be in that space and check out all these different ways that people are approaching openness really opens up a bunch of ideas for folks. And like, I think a lot of people left with a lot of ideas of things they wanted to do and try when they got home.
Yeah, I definitely came out of it very inspired. We actually shot a bunch of different videos here. So we had these LED shoelaces that I saw. Alexa showed me these. Incredible. This is like on the floor in the venue. Then we had this talk from Dr. Huaishu Peng, who was talking about kirigami with like lasers are folding this circuit right now. I
So
just can't.
gorgeous.
Oh, it blew
It
my
was
mind.
truly his talk was so fascinating. It was so beautiful to see.
And
And
then
that's just like normal. Folks are just
yeah,
coming
and I
up
got
with all these amazing ideas.
so many cool people doing such cool stuff. Anyway, I had an awesome time there. Absolutely recommend it to anyone who wants to go. Open Hardware
Yeah,
Summit. And
2024.
one really quick thing before we close up here. I noticed that you are in charge of the fellowship. Could you tell us really quick about
Yes.
the Summit Fellowship?
Yeah, so the Summit Fellowship is one of our programs where we do our best to find 10 folks from around the world that are wanting to engage with open hardware in a new way and would love a little help to get to the summit, along with our kind of build up to the summit. On the way there, we do usually 5 to 6 mentor talks where we connect the fellows with folks who have been working in open source for a while and just kind of discuss how they approach it, what they've learned from it, what they enjoy about it, and just kind of encourage the fellows to learn more themselves and get more involved in open hardware in different ways. And then we also are able to provide a stipend to help them get there. And we've been really lucky the last couple of years, especially. We've had some incredible fellows that have gone on to do some really cool things, including speaking at the summit the year after they were fellows or the year they were fellows. For example, Ayesha was a fellow this year as well as a speaker, and we were really excited to be able to see just like what she was working on and all of her incredible work, being able to find ways to highlight that and engage with it is just always really exciting for us. Like, we really love being able to show that this is a really diverse community that has all kinds of ideas, and that we can really make that like our backbone, as opposed to being just like a equity diversity underline, or just like an afterthought that we see in a lot of these spaces. Like, we want this to be a place where folks know that they are welcome and that they are a part of this community, no matter where they're from or what they're doing. Like, we want to see folks there. We want to be able to encourage people to approach openness in all kinds of ways, and at times that means giving folks some money to get them to the to get them to the summit, and that's awesome. Like, we love to be able to provide that, and it's not as much as we would like to do, but it's a small amount, and we're happy that we can do something.
Yeah, it's really encouraging, and I also was really encouraged to see that, like, how much there was a promotion of safety around the event as well, in terms of like masking and stuff, and just like, you know, really making it so that anyone who wants to come is able to show up, which is really cool. And so speaking of Ayesha, we're bringing her on in just a moment for talk about Open Hardware Month. But whoops, wrong tag. But we're gonna look at Open Hardware Month, and so it sounds like you're kicking off sort of a series of events. So what's going on?
So for Open Hardware Month this year, we were actually really inspired by the Hackster Café that happened a couple weeks ago with Ayesha, where y'all discussed the fact that you haven't had the chance to certify any projects yet. And we realized that one of the best ways that we can kind of approach that is provide the opportunity and the guidance needed to certify a project. So throughout the month of October, we're going to be doing a series of sessions with Ayesha, and we're going to be showing just like how you can approach certifying a project and all the ways that it can be really helpful and beneficial, and then also just the different things that you can learn along the way. So hi, Ayesha. So when we're looking at certification, one of the big things that people are really nervous about usually is the documentation aspect. There's a lot of documentation methods and ways that we can approach documentation, and that can be something that kind of spooks people a little bit. So for one thing, we do have a very thorough website when it comes to the certification process. We have a lot of information about what you can look at, what to expect basically when you're certifying hardware, software, documentation, branding, these kind of elements that they can sure what's going on, or you're still just developing your product and you're not really sure where to go with it. But thankfully, we've had some really wonderful folks put together super thorough explanations of how to approach these kinds of things and what to consider when you're looking at certification and licensing and things like that. So for example, hardware is a little bit more complicated. There's different laws that you might want to look at depending on how you would like to make something open and how you'd like to use something. But at the same time, software is really interesting because it's immediately copyrighted because you've written it, it's your software. So you don't necessarily need any kind of licensing when you're doing software. So that's just like weird little things that exist in our world. This is also really looking at things from our certification process is a little bit skewed towards a US perspective, just because of that's where OSHWA started, and that's where a lot of folks are based, and that's where a lot of our lawyers are based. So this is kind of the information that we work off of. But at the same time, we're always willing to have conversations with folks and discuss what makes sense for you and your product or your business. So that's always a really easy conversation to have with us. You can always email us, and we'll happily walk through anything going on with your specific situation. But when it comes to documentation itself, I think that's kind of where we're going to get started. So Ayesha
Yeah.
is working on a product right now. She has a sewable that she's been working on. Do you have? Can we see
Yeah.
the?
Tell us about it.
Tell us about your
Let's
book.
jump
Yeah,
in.
yeah. So in true maker fashion, this is a very last minute thing, which is
Woo.
amazing because we'll get to see all the struggles and everything in real time. And this idea kind of started from my last Hackster Cafe when we were talking about documenting stuff and just thinking of what we can document. And I really want to make a wearable IP 2040 development board. So I've started working on it. I'm going to finish it and we're going to try to certify it. And I'm kind of scared to. I was scared to do the certification because I was like, if there's a way to mess this up, I'm going to mess it up. So it helps that I have people holding my hand a little bit, so, and I can share everything with others, so we all can get our stuff certified.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really curious about some parts of this. So, what are you doing with the documentation at this point that you're working to get it set up for certification?
Sid, can we share who's helping us?
Yeah. So basically, we're kind of actually going to be utilizing the Hackster.io's project method. So when we
Yeah.
look at Hackster, um, you can usually see that there's really thorough ways of following their documentation methods. So the way Hackster kind of breaks it up is that we have photos of the project, and so we're looking at Ayesha's work right now, and you can see there's the photo, there's the name, and then we kind of have the story, the parts list, diagrams, things like that. And you can kind of follow through in this really easily to be able to see what does make good documentation and what makes it easy to create something that people can follow really easily, because that's really what we're trying to do when we're looking at certification and openness, is like we're trying to find ways to be able to go through, and anyone could just make this project themselves. So when we're looking at something like the programmable RGB LEDs, we've got this really easy breakdown where we're looking at the skill level is immediately there of intermediate. We're seeing that it is still a work in progress, but that it's happening. And when you go through, like, you have the things, the story, the schematics, the credits, and it's all right there and easy to look through and follow. And that's like really what we want to see when we're looking at documenting a project, something that is visually easy to look at. You can follow it very clearly, and all the information you need is linked out really easily. You can see everything with no real issues getting in the way, and it really makes it so much easier for anyone to just kind of find this and decide, this is actually really cool, I want to see if I can make this, and all the information is right there. So that's usually where we really start when we're looking at certifying a project. Is this is all the same information that you're submitting when you're submitting to certify. When you're
Oh, yeah.
following that the certification process, when you're filling out the form, like, we start off with just some like basic information about your company and you and where you're from, and then we kind of go into the project, and it's like you're looking at the project name, so you're made, and it's right there, you're doing programmable LEDs, and then what version it is. So one of the things that we also encourage and kind of need when we're doing these kinds of projects and certifying is that when you do develop a new version, it's always really, really helpful to be able to update your documentation as you come up with new versions. And what we usually encourage with that is that not only do you have the original version staying up, but you resubmit a certification with the fresh documentation for the next version. And this way, people are able to still follow your first version of what you've created, So that still exists. That documentation's still there. People still have access to it.
Oh.
When you've made fresh versions that you have made tweaks that you think are worth documenting, people can still go into that new version and maybe update their first version to that. Or if they're still working with version 1, they don't have to suddenly have all the documentation missing and all the documentation is for version 2 suddenly, and they can't keep track of what's going on.
That's amazing. Okay.
I love,
Sorry, go on, please.
yeah, I love the versioning.
Yeah, it makes it so much easier. Like we really want to encourage that, like, at no point should you consider something to be less important because it's older. Like there's I mean, I have programs that I updated my computer and now they don't work, and that sucks. And it's like, it's cool that they've made new versions of the program that I can still use, but if you're someone who doesn't update your computer that often or likes to use an older version of some program, and then they update it and then it's no longer compatible, that sucks. You're losing all your work. So we really like to encourage people to make sure that they're thinking of it as like each version is its own separate thing in a lot of ways, and to just keep adding to it as opposed to taking away. It's always better to have more.
Yeah,
and then,
absolutely. This was actually going to be my question for you, and I imagine that you get it a lot, which is that I've been thinking about certifying, for example, this thing, but I also am like, oh, what should I wait because I want to like put a capacitor on it to smooth out the programming process, you know? And I've been like, oh, I've got to like hold off until I've got it perfect, and like, you know, it's just like it feels like a lot of stress for me particularly, where it's like if I don't have it perfect, I can't do the thing, and so the thing will like never happen because it's not like finished yet, and it's always in progress.
one of the things we say relatively frequently actually is let's not let perfect be the enemy of done.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing. Like, this is a part of it. This is a version of something you've created, and just because it's not the final version doesn't mean it's not an important version. It doesn't mean that there won't be plenty of people that can get a lot out of that version. Because also, you know, once we start making things more complicated, sometimes it might get out of someone's skill range, or maybe they're not prepared to do version 5, but they can easily do version 1. And that's something we can make happen by having the documentation in place, and they can go back and look at it and see that version 1 is all still there. It's not gone anywhere.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was absolutely that was like the thing that was keeping me from ever doing this process, and I'm so excited that this is just like
Yeah, like if we look at the application page for certifying a project, it's really quite straightforward. Let me see if I can. Yeah, and we're scrolling through that. Like, it's really quite easy. It's all information that you're going to know by the time you're at this point in your project, and it's really easy to follow through. And just if you've already uploaded it on Hackster, for example, this is essentially just following the same kind of thing you're seeing on Hackster, where you're putting like the name and what kind of project it is and what kind of keywords you want to utilize. It's just super simple and easy, and the project website can literally be your Hackster page.
That's so cool.
It's all very integrated in that way, and it makes it a lot easier to certify for the first time. And like, once you've done it once, it's really easy. You're like, oh, okay, this is just answering some yes or no questions, basically.
And then you've got examples of like, you know, this is also a huge thing for us. On Hackster, you can add your how your project is licensed when you publish it. And so being able to actually see right on in the form where you're doing that. Pardon, let me bring this up again in the right spot.
And then we've also been integrating onto Hackster itself. We also have now made it that we have a tag for folks when they've certified something. We can add it onto the projects page of our hub so that you can see what projects have been open source certified on Hackster as well. So we're really finding ways to make sure we're bringing everything together and making it a little bit more accessible across various platforms. And it's been really neat. Like, right now we have a lot of the stuff from Carlota Berry, who she's one of our Trailblazer fellows, and she made all of these robots, all these really cool open source robots. We also have some stuff from Lightside Instruments. So folks have been starting to catch on to it, but also if you have an open source certified project that's on Hackster, you can always submit it for approval to be on our projects page, which is really fun. Yeah, and then so when we're talking about preparing certification, for example, Ayesha has a new sewable that she's been working on. And within this, we wanted to find ways to show that not only can you have this basic documentation or the slightly extra credit version of doing your Hackster page, we're also going to be working with Steph Piper from Maker Queen, and she's going to be guiding us through making a really aesthetically pleasing and also incredibly informative manual. So Steph has certified quite a few of her works, including this glow stitch LEDs. I believe this was actually from last October when she certified this. So this is technically pumpkin spiced is what we like to call it when you certify in October. And her incredible certification, like these manuals are so good. These are such a great way to really show folks how things can look, should look with your project, or a way that they could look with your project, and you can alter it in a way that makes sense for whomever is using it. And we love these manuals. Like, we think that they're just such a great way to engage people. And so during the next couple weeks, we're going to have Ayesha taking her sewable from, you know, that stage where you have it just completed or almost completed, and bringing it all the way through. She's on October 8th, we're going to have a session with Steph where we're going to live make a manual with Ayesha, and it's going to be really fun. And then we're going to take a little break. We're going to have a week off, and then we're going to come back, and we're actually going to live submit the certification. And within that, we're also going to have Michael Weinberg, who is our board president and has also been involved with OSHWA for literally forever. I don't think he'll ever be free from us. He's incredible. He's the one who did all the tech stuff at the summit. So he was behind the screen the whole time, and he loved it back there, doing all his little tech things. And he's going to show us what it looks like on the back end of the process. So what email we receive and how he looks through it and what goes into that process, and then approving it live so that we can also see just how that all comes together from all the perspectives. Because I know that a lot of folks, you know, it's intimidating. It feels intimidating to be like, yes, this thing is good, and I know it's good, and I'm putting it in to be good and open.
So where can we catch all these events that you're going to be doing?
So they're all going to be happening on our YouTube channels. They'll be streaming live. So we're going to be having, and if you go on the OHM website, you can actually see the events page already has some of these populated. So there'll be, that's kind of the perfect place to keep track of a lot of these things. You can also check all of our socials. So there's always Twitter, Mastodon, and LinkedIn. But so right now, when you're on the events page, you can see September 26th, 1 p.m. to, I accidentally put 5 p.m. That's interesting. We're going to be streaming for 4 hours today.
Excellent.
We're doing the Hackster Café OHM kickoff right now. And then, yeah, on October 8th, we have all the information for making a manual. And then we also, we make sure to use this calendar also to highlight any community events that are happening. So, for example, the United Makers Alliance has their 2023 gathering in Baltimore coming up. And if folks have events that they want to highlight to people, they're always welcome to email us at info@oshwa.org or fill out our form. We have a Google form that is on all of our socials that people can fill out to let us know about events that they're hosting or things they're putting together. And we always make sure to put them up on our calendar and highlight them as best we can. And then when you look through, like, the OHM website has resources for helping you run an event or things to know about the kind of do's and don'ts of an event, and just making sure that you're feeling comfortable with doing an event. Hosting an event can feel overwhelming at times. So we make sure that this website provides all the resources you need for doing that. So that can be something as simple as hanging out with some friends and certifying some projects together, or doing some work, some greater work. It's really kind of up to you and what makes sense for you and your community. But we do, like we really encourage certifications during October so that they could be pumpkin spiced. And when they're pumpkin spiced, you get the fun little pumpkin on your certification, and we make sure to highlight it on our socials as being pumpkin spiced. And then also this year, as like a fun bonus, when we hit the end of the month and we have all of our month certification, we're going to be printing and sending out a bunch of pumpkin spiced logo stickers so that you can have that and know that you pumpkin spiced your certification this year. So that's a really fun way to just do like a simple, you've certified your project and then you get a sticker.
Amazing.
And then within that, we're also going to be giving out some of our now retro OSHWA logo stickers because we've officially got our new logo.
Can we see it?
We can see it. Actually, I think I sent it to you in an email real quick if you want to pull that up. Yeah.
Let me see if I can
we can show you what we came up with.
In the meantime, I would love to. Oh, yes, here we go. Fresh this morning. I'm so excited. Oh, wow. Here we go, folks. Are you ready? Drum roll. Yes! Look at it go.
There's our new OSHWA logo. So it's all open source fonts, everything. And we worked with a designer to come up with something that we thought would really show how we kind of see OSHWA within the community. We kind of really hope that folks see OSHWA as kind of like something that is providing a space for folks to build off of. So this is kind of how we see this the shooting out area on the side here. We kind of view us as trying to do our best to help launch other programs and launch other people's open source products and builds. So yeah, we're really excited about it. We're really excited about this change, and we've got some more really big changes coming up on the way. It's going to be a really big year of change for OSHWA, and we're really excited to be able to do it with folks and show the different ways that OSHWA is kind of growing and changing within open source, within our community, and how we're trying to kind of step up in more ways now that we are really lucky to be receiving a little bit more funding through a couple different streams and some grant funding. So we're trying to find more ways that we can engage the community and make things even more accessible and make openness even more of an option for people. So
this is so exciting.
We're really stoked.
Amazing. Now, Ayesha, I would love to get your perspective on some of this. As a person who's going to be going through this process, I'm absolutely going to be watching those other sessions. It sounds amazing. I can't believe that already, like, my one big question that was keeping me from doing this, like, is no longer an issue. It's like, I don't have to worry about new revisions. So for you, what is exciting to you about getting your project certified?
Honestly, and before that, like that was my same issue too. Like I was so afraid that I never get the first revision, right? So that was one of the things that was holding me back. So knowing that that's not an issue is huge. But I've been learning more about open hardware over the last year. So this just seems like the next right thing to do to truly make a project open hardware. So I think giving that kind of access to people to see my design and use it, that for me is the biggest thing. And just learning the whole process is kind of interesting. And I'm sure we are not the only two people who've been intimidated to get this certification done. So going through that process and figuring that out and hopefully taking away that intimidation both within me and for other people will be helpful.
Yeah. And sorry. Is there anything that you're still afraid of or like nervous about with the process that you're looking forward to getting cleared up as we move through this month?
Yeah, I'm not the best at documentation, so I just trying to be better about that has been my goal. So having Steph help with some of this is amazing, but I'm still scared I'll mess up something. It's like the legal words are scary sometimes, but I know OSHWA's got us covered when it comes to this.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like interfacing with the legal side of stuff. I have to. One thing that you said about like not being amazing at documentation, like I gotta say, this is a gorgeous project and it's gorgeously documented. And even this, like, I've never made anything like this for my projects, and I probably should, but like, you're really doing the thing already. I don't know. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, like, you've already got such strong documentation. I think it's just
Mm.
gonna be really easy. Actually, I think we're gonna have a very easy month of being able to bring a project from completion to certification. I feel like you're already halfway there.
I love that you'll have more faith in me than I do. I just like volunteered. I was like, I signed up as tribute and I showed up.
Perfect. Yeah, and that means that you're in the perfect place to, like, your questions are definitely gonna be a lot of the questions that I'm gonna be asking too. We have a comment that we've already inspired someone else, or at least to jump in and tell us he's gonna be certifying. Yeah, openmuscle.org. That sounds so cool. So
Yeah,
everybody.
so that's one of the big things is like also during this process, like it's going to be very collaborative. We're going to be showing all these steps, and like if you're thinking about certifying a project, it'll be really easy to just join in on some of the sessions, see how we're approaching it, and then do something similar yourself. Or even if you're not prepared to do a kind of greater manual in the way that we're approaching with Steph and Ayesha, you can easily just fill out the self-certification form, and that can be your step. That's a huge step in itself. So we're really
Absolutely.
excited about it, and we're really looking forward to seeing what projects get certified this month.
Yeah, and if someone fills out the form wrong, is there like a punishment process? Do you like email them and be like, "You did the form wrong.
No,
No certification for you."
there's no
Just
punishment.
stick
We'll
it.
usually, if we do notice that something is missing, we'll just email you and talk to you about it. And that's actually a huge way that we approach all of these things of like if something happens with where your certification documentation was hosted, if for some reason that site goes down or the link breaks or something, we just email you. We go, hey man, we noticed that this link is broken. Do you have access to the documentation so that we can make sure that that's still accessible? And that's our first step in all of our situations. At any point, if something is looking off or we're missing some information, we just email the creator and check in and see what we can do to make the process easier for them again, because that's all we really want. Like all we want is for people to certify. So we want to make sure that everything is as easy as possible, accessible and informative. And again, if you ever hit a point where you're like, I'm really not sure about this aspect, you can always email us at info@oshwa.org or certification@oshwa.org. So there's options, and we're always willing to work with someone to figure out how we can get their project certified. So it's all about access.
Sweet. Again, that's info@oshwa.org and certification@oshwa.org.
Yes.
Perfect. Oh, there's gonna be so many cool projects coming out about this. Again, I can't believe that you don't have to be locked in. That's so cool. Let's see. Is there a central place where we can? I know that there's the events page on the Open Hardware Month website. Is that the best place to learn about what's coming up?
Yeah,
And
that's definitely that will be updated, but we also update all of our socials almost daily. So
right.
you can always find us on LinkedIn, Mastodon, and Twitter, and we make sure to update all those frequently. And then as far as the actual live sessions, they will be running on our YouTube page where we have everything else that we've done that is a video. So you can also, check out the 2023 Open Hardware Summit videos if you feel like seeing what some of those talks were like, because, since we've got Ayesha doing stuff, we also have Ayesha's talk from the summit on here. If that's a way that you'd
Oh
like to kind of
yeah.
start thinking about how these projects are going to come together, you can learn about how Ayesha's made a bunch of really pretty PCBs and continues to make gorgeous PCBs.
Yeah, and her talk was amazing. Also, we've got our Hackster Cafe session from a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to be putting all the links to these in the description to the video, by the way, all the LinkedIn, Mastodon, and Twitter for OSHWA, Ayesha's information as well. Sid, if there's links that you'd like to share that aren't already there, feel free to send them, and we'll put those all in the description. And it's just like a wrap-up thing. I'm just curious how we all found out about OSHWA. So, Sid, have you been there since the start, or did you join at some point?
Oh, I I joined I guess it would be 2020 late 2021, early 2022, I first started as the Summit Fellowship Chair, and then I was very lucky to also get contacted a few months after the summit that year, and they asked if I would like to interview again as the community coordinator, and it went really well, obviously. And so now I'm also doing the community coordination stuff. I've been doing that for about a year now, and it's been really, really fun.
Awesome. Ayesha, how did you hear about it?
Yeah, I not the Open Hardware Summit this year, but the one before that. I joined that online, and Alexandra and Sanya, they were fellows that year, and I think Sanya had shared about the Summit Fellowship, and I still debated to apply that year. But they both got in, and I met a bunch of people online because of that, and I just kept getting drawn more and more in. And the summit this year was my first ever hardware conference ever, and it was the best experience.
Yeah. I think that I also found out about it through the Open Hardware Summit, although it could have been through Drew Festini, because I remember him always giving out these, yeah, with the little bubble logo. There were some SAOs that he made for badges, but I feel like it must have been before that. In fact, he might have handed those out like at an Open Hardware Summit. So somewhere in there, yeah, I found out about OSHWA. And here's just like a few of the links for people to plow through. We're going to be wrapping up here pretty quick, but yeah, be sure to check out the description to the video. I'm going to be updating it with the OSHWA YouTube, Ayesha's Café from a couple weeks ago. If that isn't already on there, it definitely will be. We've got Instagram for both OSHWA and Ayesha, and then OSHWA's Twitter account as well. Open Source Hardware Association. We are so excited to be heading into Open Hardware Month. Everybody check out the events page to keep up with what's going to be happening throughout the month as Ayesha goes through the certification process. And I'm going to be watching like a hawk because, I mean, no pressure, but to me, this is like, again, you know, can't believe that like that one blocker I had is not actually a blocker. Thank you both. Is there anything you'd like to throw in there before we wrap up?
Yeah, I guess just like, let's have a really great Open Hardware Month, folks.
Yeah. And hopefully more people get certified.
Yeah, certification.
I can't wait to be pumpkin spice, assuming I get it done in time. We'll see. But like, I'll be watching you and cheering you on all the way. Thank you, folks. And thank you everyone for joining us. Hack on. Ciao.
Bye, everybody.